need to drink as much pop as I do, but I love it. I am a.
Get one other day.
I had one.
Like nicotine patches. They make a THC patch now, so you don't even got to smoke pot, you just put the patch on.
Oh yeah, they make pills too.
I was like, what the fuck?
I had a friend that took the THC pills, but they didn't actually know it was THC.
Yeah, they had them for years, but I've never seen a patch.
It helped them.
Oh, Beckley, how many people are there today?
We got us all here.
Everybody's there?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Is the internet down there?
Yeah, Wi-Fi, it's weird, I had to get off of it.
Hadn't heard.
I can't connect to the internet.
I'm listening all over Facebook.
All right,
Listening all over.
so as we do today, let me bring you all up to speed as to where we're at and what we're doing. First of all, your tests are graded, but I did not hand them back to you today to review. Everybody did very well. Don't have anybody that I'm really concerned about. All the grades were pretty good. That test was pretty easy. It wasn't too bad. But I'm not handing them back to you today because my liaison in Beckley is not going to be there today. And so as a result, I cannot go over the test without you all having it in front of you. So what I'll plan on doing is I'll have them to her and she'll be ready to hand those out for you all on Tuesday, and we'll review them on Tuesday. Now, for those of you who are here during the snow, I talked about having a test today. Are you all aware of that? You think everybody's prepared to take said test today? I have it with me. We're ready to roll. Beckley, is somebody come to, she has that test. She told me she'd have somebody there to hand that test to you all who wanted to take it today. Realizing that a lot of you all were absent on the snow on Tuesday, any of you that don't want to take it, you or feel free to make it up.
Go ahead and take it.
You be all right.
Let's do it.
We'll take it.
Will some of you find the lady in Beckley who's supposed to hand you all your tests? This test is not.
We have the
We
test,
have
we just don't have a proctor.
Yeah, right. And basically, if somebody will turn on the lights, I'm going to watch you all on the monitor, and I'm going to trust that you're not going to cheat. I gave you that spiel at the beginning. If somebody bumped those lights, I can see figures, but I can't hardly see people.
The lights are on.
Are you kidding?
Wow. No. Let us drop the shade and see if that helps.
Maybe that'll help. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. So you all do have your test, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you'll put your name on the top of it. I hate to ask, young man, but would you collect those and shoot them to me in an email?
Huh?
Will somebody in the class, oh, you're there. Will you gather those up after they're done and shoot those back to me in an email?
Yeah, I'll email them to you.
Okay, thank you. Folks, this test isn't hard. Don't anybody freak out and freeze. Put your name on top of it, put your stuff away. There is one question on this test that I want to make sure I go over with you all before we take it. Okay? And that is, I would like to ask you all, somebody tell me, to commit a cyber crime, you've got to have a computer and a what?
Internet connection.
And that's basically access to a network. Thank you. Good. So know that. We didn't cover that to a big degree, but I want to make sure you all are comfortable with that question. Know that word. That's fine. You can catch those. Can you repeat that? Say again?
Can you repeat that?
Commit a cyber crime, you're going to have two things. You're going to have a computer and you're going to have something else. Access to what?
Network.
The internet, which is basically a big network.
I'm good.
I'm going to eventually get you to smile and say hi to me before the end of the semester, I promise. I'm going to keep working on you. All right? You know, same place? When y'all are done, Beckley, if you'll just take those up and wait on me, when y'all are done in here, hand them here and sit quietly at your desk just as quick as everybody hands them in. We're gonna get some notes before we go home so we don't get any farther behind. I appreciate the fact that you folks at Beckley are gonna jump right in, even though some of you were absent, and take that test. One, it's not too hard, and two, I think you all will be fine. You all got a good grasp of what we're covering. I can tell you have a good grasp. I'm still grading. Hopefully I'll return much of your paperwork to you on Tuesday when you come back too. I'm grading the assignment y'all handed in, and the work has just been very, very good to this point. I have no qualms. Everybody's doing a pretty good job. Now I'll hush and let y'all take the test. If anybody has any questions, especially those of you in Beckley, raise your hand. Let me know. when I sit down and type these, my little mind is too small to be out by itself. What number was that question?
20.
Question 23, she brought up a valid point. Question 23, the word says actual location, and I should have used the word physical location. Because that was the word I used in class, physical location. I don't know why I changed it while I was typing it. Sometimes I do that. Kind of means the same thing, but just to be sure. And I said actual location, but I mean physical location. Come in, young man. We're taking a test. You want to give it a whirl?
Yeah, sure, why not?
It would.
Oh, yeah, this one's almost too easy. Get off so people can make big pictures. Like I did when I first time I took SAT. Yeah, that don't work all the time either. Goodness, the teacher is before me in this class now stands out here like I do. The last semester, the teacher stood over there and he always put the camera in the corner. Little thing. This guy stands out here like I do. I don't like a podium. okay? You support him?
He's still in.
The main thing is we just don't want nothing to happen to him. First thing you do is jerk out those notes to see what you did right, what you did wrong.
Yeah.
Crack it up. Beckley, is anybody left still taking the test of Beckley? Raise your hand.
Yeah, we got one.
Okay, I got a couple still here too. Beckley, whenever the weather breaks, I'm making arrangements. If it may be closer to the 1st of March, but I'm gonna make arrangements to come up there and teach back this way at some point. I want to be able to spend a Tuesday and maybe a Thursday at some point in the semester with you all and teach back this way. So I can meet you all and get to see everybody face to face. I think that makes a big difference. It's tough for you all to have that class and have the distance between us without any face-to-face time. It is. No face-to-face. That's why I'm going to.
I'm crying, I'm sorry.
But we still got work this afternoon.
What y'all gonna do?
We got some.
Oh.
And then stay a while.
You got a bit.
Everyone's done here. Yeah, like.
You know what? Right. A week ago.
I mean, paying attention to the details will make it good. I hope so. You're not your kid. I like it. You make me a better teacher. You are.
He's the only other.
Was my name included in the little conversation?
Yes, I am. Ordering. That's right.
I got lost, sorry, I was in a couple places. I guess to an extent.
That's right.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm all, actually,
While you're finishing that up, your question to me was what? And it's not necessarily has anything to do with class, but you asked my opinion on what? I have some mixed emotions about
Me
that.
too, but
There are certain places
I know some
that the
people
general
live there.
public does not need to carry firearms. Now, there are certain places that certified law enforcement professionals absolutely should have the right to bring their firearms. But there are certain places that the general public should not carry firearms. Places like bars, you should not be in a bar drinking with a firearm. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. Well, you and I talked about that earlier, right?
Yeah, but there's a law against having a firearm in possession when you're drunk.
And
But
so,
that just makes people,
I have some mixed emotions. I think that firearms on a campus, I mean, you don't have to go to Texas for that to be promoted.
But there
The
are-
guy at Liberty University right out here in Lynchburg encouraged his students to come on campus with their weapons. So, are there some positives that could come out of it? Absolutely. I mean, if people had been armed at Virginia Tech, would the guy have been able to accomplish what he could have accomplished? Probably not. But the flip side to that, in my mind, is,
it was really gonna do something productive.
well, the opportunity for mistakes go up whenever you're carrying a sidearm. You know, for example, two guys bump into each other and they just don't flat like each other outside of whatever hall at whatever campus. And they kind of push at each other and glare at each other a little bit, but neither one of them has a weapon. Well, they kind of eyeball each other and then they move on. But if they have a weapon, if one of them reaches for it, the other one's gonna reach for it, and now you've got a standoff right there on campus that you.
Right.
So, you know, I have some mixed emotions about that. I'm not sure. It goes into a deeper problem that our community is not going to, that our society is going to have to address at some point. And that is that one police officer per 45 or 50,000 citizens is not enough. And until our tax-paying citizens are ready to pay for a more comprehensive police officer and have our police officer to private citizen ratio reduced, you're gonna have to continue to answer questions like that. And is the answer arming our citizens? I don't know. I mean, cities like Tombstone and you know, Los Angeles and Deadwood, South Dakota, and all of those cities would tell you that arming their citizens is not the answer, because one of the first things all of those towns in the old West tried to do was disarm everybody that came to town, you know? So, is arming everyone the answer? I don't know. What is the answer? I mean, I think that's the question of our day. But realistically, I think what you're looking at is a situation where, one, police departments have to mirror the communities that they're enforcing. And two, one police officer for every 40,000 residents is simply not enough. It just doesn't do it. If we don't start biting the bullet and pay some more taxes so that we can have larger, better trained police officers and police forces and force that ratio down, I think one police officer for every 10 or 20,000 residents would be a more realistic number. You know, in major cities, they don't even have that. I bet in New York, it's one police officer for every 50,000. You know, and that's just not enough. You can't be everywhere you need to be. You can't do the things you need to do. So, can I answer your question? No. In my opinion, I see the benefits and the problems to both. Does that make sense? I mean, I can see the benefit to being armed at different places, but I also can being a police officer. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm old school. I'm old school when it comes to people carrying a gun. When me and him were talking earlier in our first class, and I saw a dude not long ago who was carrying a gun, and my question to him was, whose wife are you messing with? Well, nobody's. Well, why are you carrying a gun? What are you afraid of? Who's gonna get you? I mean, what do you do to make people mad that you feel like you gotta carry a gun everywhere you go? And that's my train of thought, but that's old school thought. You know, now people just carry a gun because I can't carry a gun, and that's okay. But I have trouble with that, because I don't do stuff to people to feel like I need a gun to defend myself all the time. That's not how I feel. Even when I was in law enforcement, I didn't feel like I had to carry a gun all the time, because I don't do stuff to people. Did I do my job? Absolutely. But did I poke at people all the time? Was I all the time stirring trouble? No.
See, that's kind of like, people saying, well, why do you have a password on your phone?
Right.
That's not the case. No. I mean, for some maybe, but not for everybody.
Well, and it's just, I will admit that my logic and my thought process is pretty old, when it comes to carrying these guns. But, and I've kind of had to make that adjustment.
Yeah, that's it.
To people carrying guns. But I can certainly see the benefit to the gun carrying, but I also see the pitfalls that there could possibly be with it too. What the right answer?
I think there's a happy medium to it. I think that they need to change the way they do their concealed weapons permits, because it's nothing more than a money racket. I mean, the class they give you is pitiful. If they was gonna set up, to where you actually had a class that you learned something in and made you pay for it, then yeah, but the way it is now, it's not working.
Well, and I don't know that you're ever gonna get private citizens with the same background that folks who've been through criminal justice and been through the criminal justice training will have had. You won't ever get private citizens to look at life through that lens. We go through these classes all the time, and I think that you all have insight to things that the general public doesn't necessarily have insight to. And especially after you've been through a police academy, whether it's to be a Bluefield City police officer or West Virginia State Police, or you go down to Georgia, I can't think of the name of Georgia, and go through the FBI's, McDonough, Georgia, that's where it's at, McDonough, Georgia, go through the FBI's academy. But whatever, those people, all of us look at things through a different lens from criminal justice. And my concern is, I grew up in an era where if I ever draw a gun on somebody, the next thing that's getting ready to happen is a bang. Right? I don't pull a gun out and throw it to people, to threaten people, to scare people. If I pull my gun out and level it, the next thing you're gonna hear is boom. And that's the way I was trained, that's the way I was brought up. But you have a lot of people today who think they're gonna ride down the road and show somebody their gun and scare people. I mean, and that's the way the general citizenry think. And to me, in my mind, the worst thing that you can ever do to me is scare me, because now what am I gonna do? Yeah. And I'm gonna be for real, right? Because if you make me afraid that you're gonna hurt me or kill me, I'm gonna do you before you get to me, right? So, I mean, it's a whole plethora of things in that question that he's asking. And I don't know what the right answer is, and I don't pretend to know, but I do believe that we are in a situation where law enforcement is going through a change, and one of the changes that's gonna have to happen, and both parties are talking about it in their presidential campaigns right now. The Republicans discuss it, and the Democrats are discussing it even harder. But, one of the changes that's gonna have to happen in law enforcement is we're gonna have to put more people on the streets. Now, does that mean that we need to be engaging and making more arrests? No. But I believe that more officers on the streets tends to deter crime exponentially, right? That's just kind of what I think. Your question?
Were you talking about like teachers
The
being
students.
armed or students being armed in
Student
Texas?
body. And on college campuses.
Oh, okay. See, I was thinking like public
No.
school.
No, they're starting on college campuses.
Well, my mom, one of her best friends just moved to Texas like 2.5 years ago, and the school that her 8-year-old son goes to, teachers are armed. There's a sign posted on their property that says our teachers are armed and will do whatever. So that's what I was wondering.
And there again, it just poses a lot of problems. Teachers, not every police officer is equipped to be a teacher, and not every teacher is equipped to be a police officer. I can see the problems in there, you know what I'm saying? Yes?
I heard, one of the former, instructors here, pushed for, veterans to be able to carry.
I would probably go along with that, because one of the groups of people that I left out, with the groups of people who see life through kind of a criminal justice lens would be a lot of your veterans, depending upon what they did. The only problem I have with that, the only issue that I would have with that is you have a lot of these young men and women that are coming back now with PTSD.
Yeah.
And I do not want to put a handgun in a young man's hand who's also suffering from PTSD. He don't need responsibility.
That's
You know?
true.
So Again, I can see the benefit, but I also can see the pitfall.
Honestly, the thing is I just last month took my concealed weapons permit class, and I know a lot of people that have went to take it, didn't even do the class, the person just gave them the certificate and went on. But the class that I took was teaching some of the same things that you're talking about, that you were talking about earlier. So I think it really, honestly, with the way things are going right now, it just depends on the person.
Well, but that's the
Their
variable that we've
mentality,
always had.
yeah.
That's the variable we've always had. All right, let's jump into some of these notes. Good question, by the way. It's good classroom discussion. I like it. I don't know what the answer is, but I think we bring out some very valid points and very valid concerns in all of our situations. Intelligence policing. There are 6 steps to intelligence policing. Step number 1 is planning and directing. Planning and directing is step 1. The first thing is planning and directing, and what they're trying to decide, what you're trying to decide with step 1 is how the data will be collected. What are some concerns about data collection?
Privacy.
Privacy, got that answer both places. Privacy, what else?
Inaccurate information.
Inaccurate information? Anything else? How about collecting so much intel that you can't sort it all? That sensory overload you talked about, if you will. All right, so you've got to plan and give direction to how the data will be collected. Because what you're trying to do is control the flow of information so that you don't overwhelm yourself, not violate people's rights, and get current and accurate information. All right. Step 2. Step 2 is the collection process. Now I've got 2 or 3 things to tell you about the collection process. First thing to tell you about the collection process is it is the most labor-intensive part of this intelligence-led policing effort. All right? It is the most labor-intensive. It is where the collection avenue is where the rubber meets the road, if you will. That's where your most labor-intensive work is done. Now, we talked a little bit about the other day, and I'll list for you again because there are a couple that my notes listed after I left class and was reading. I was kind of going from memory, and there's a couple of ways of collecting this data that I did not give you all the first go round that I want to add to your data collection. Okay, we're talking about using informants and using the internet. There are a couple here that they added here that I did not have on here that I want to make sure you have, and one of those is physical surveillance. Physical surveillance. Physical surveillance, electronic surveillance, of course, we talked about our confidential informants. Undercover ops is another one that I did not mention that should be on there. Undercover operations, which encompasses a lot. And the last 2 that I'm going to give you that I did not give you last week, I was kind of shocked that they use these to collect data. You all might give your 2 cents worth on this, but it was obvious to me after I read it, but I would not have thought of it on my own. And these last 2 are news reports and public records. Talk about Captain Obvious, right? You ought to be able to pull a lot of intel off of those. Again, though, our main concern is, like we were talking about just a minute ago, is accuracy. Because the news reports don't always have to be true, right? A lot of news reporters don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So accuracy is one of your concerns there off news reports. Public records tend to be more accurate. Well, you know, the lady last night in class was telling that she's going through a background investigation right now, and when she was a little girl, 2, 3, 4, whatever, her parents moved to Michigan because that's where her grandparents are from, and you know, her mom's parents, and her mom, her grandmother and grandfather was having some health issues and stuff, so her parents moved her out there. And one of the first questions out of the background investigator's mouth is, "Why did you live in Michigan for 2 years or 3 years?" And he's like, "Well, I was 3, and so wherever my parents went, I kind of had to go along." Yeah. Wasn't like I was going to say no. And so, you know, that public information, he gained that through public information. He pulled her records and her parents' records and realized that they'd all lived in Michigan for that period of time, and he wanted to know about that. You know, I don't guess he put 2 and 2 together and did some dates on the date she lived in Michigan and realized she was only a little girl, but you know, that was one of the questions that he asked. So,
did they not mention anything about social media news reports?
they didn't in this, but I think that's excellent. If you're going to look at news reports, I think social media, and to be honest with you, the federal government grabs a lot of their intel now, especially on ISIS and some of these others, is right off social media and the stuff that they post. So I'd definitely add social media to that. Good contribution. Because if you're going to use news media, social media is another spot. I myself am not social media friendly, so it becomes a little more difficult for me to think about that as an avenue to gain intel. But for those millennials in here who are, that is a good spot.
Be surprised what you can learn on social.
Oh, I know I wouldn't. It would not shock me a
People are
bit.
very honest on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, I don't have a Facebook account, nor do I want one. But every once in a while, I'll look on my wife's Facebook, and there will be people on there who give an account, a step-by-step, a detailed account of everything they did that day.
Yeah.
And I think, what are you doing? There's some things that the rest of the world just don't need to know. You know?
Well, they post videos on social media.
Yeah. Yeah. The last bank robbers that they caught, well, not the last ones they called into a radio station in like Cleveland or Cincinnati and bragged about it, and that's how they caught them. But the group before that, there's a group that caught that robbed a bank, and they posted pictures of all of them standing shoulder to shoulder with the money fanned out and cigars in their mouth, and they posted it on Facebook. You know? Yep, they're done. That was almost as silly as the guys that called in. They robbed a bank 2 weeks ago. I don't remember if it was in Cleveland or Cincinnati, but where was that? And they got away scot-free. Had no leads. They had no evidence, no nothing. And they had a call-in radio show on the morning show where you would call in and confess stuff. And this goober thought he was being anonymous, called in and said, "Yeah, we're the ones who robbed that bank. The police can't catch us." Well, police went and pulled the phone records and went right to their house and arrested them all. I mean, all right. Step 3, processing or correlation. Processing or correlation. Shifting or massaging the information from useless piles of data into usable forms. Which means that oftentimes you're getting rid of useless data, you're piecing data together, bits of information together to get a clearer picture. Number 4 is the analysis. After you put all of that information together, You get rid of the useless information, get rid of the incorrect information, put the bits of information together. You then begin to put it into a report form. And that is known as the analysis. In other words, when you in the analysis, you derive meaning. It derives meaning. It comes into a report, a useful report. And these last two might be the two most important steps in the entire process. 5 and 6 may be the two most important steps in the entire process. Number 5 is dissemination. Number 5 is dissemination. What does dissemination mean?
C,
Say again?
with a C.
No.
D-I-S-S.
Dissemination is spread out.
D-I-S-S-E-M-A-N-A-T-I-O-N. Number 5 is dissemination. What does that mean? What does the word dissemination mean?
Get it out to those who need it.
Right.
Distribute.
Distribute it. Dissemination means to distribute, to hand out, to give out. Now there are two guidelines for dissemination of intelligence in criminal justice. There are two guidelines that they use, and they're pretty loose, they're pretty broad, but if you think about it, they're also very restrictive. Information is disseminated to one, people who need it. They must have a need. There has to be a need for that information. And number 2, they use the word right. The people that have the right to view it. I would say people who are authorized to view it as another word, right? People who are authorized to view it. In other words, if you have intel, can you disseminate it to a non-criminal justice agency? Shouldn't. Not unless it gets approved through political channels. The dissemination of this criminal justice information is limited by 2 things. 1, there has to be a need, and 2, you have to be authorized, or you have to have the right to see it. So whenever you're watching CSI and Gibbs says, I need to know, and the FBI says that's need to know only, and you're not in it, that means he does not have the right to see it.
Yeah, well, he doesn't listen to that very often.
Not very often.
So both of those stipulations have to be met.
Yes. Yes, both of those have to be met. They have to have a need, and they have to have the right or the access to the ability to view it. Clearance. And 6, the last one, reevaluation. Reevaluation. What is reevaluation? What do you think it means?
Go back and look at the information again.
And what are you looking for? Y'all are on the right track.
Anything you may have missed the first time?
Kind of, y'all still on the right track. Tell me, you've analyzed it, you've gathered this information, you've analyzed this information, you disseminated this information, and now you're going to, what's the word I used? Reevaluate. When you reevaluate something, when you relook at something, what are you looking for? Remember, who had me in the other classes, we talked about evidence-based practices. Who's talked about evidence-based practices with me? There's one hand. Thank you for being honest. You? Yeah. Evidence-based practices, yeah. You smiling. Evidence-based practices. At the end of evidence, what makes our evidence-based practices in law enforcement, what makes them evidence-based? How do we determine truth? Now you're going somewhere. How do we determine truth? How do we determine accuracy?
Evidence.
Say it again. It's what?
Evidence.
Evidence of what?
Crime.
Think deeper. Not only the crime, but what else? If we have a 6-month-long investigation, and at the end of that investigation, all of our intel comes together, and we make 82 arrests, and we bust up the biggest drug meth lab in southern West Virginia. Have we been a success or a failure? A success. So what you need to know is when they reevaluate this data, they're analyzing that data to look and see if the information they gave was successful in the mission or was it not.
Like a brief and debrief?
Like a brief and debrief.
Kind of like, do we need to do this again?
Or do we need to do it differently?
What do we need to do differently?
Yeah.
What can we do? What the questions you want to ask in a reevaluation is, what did we do in this situation that was good, and what could we have done better? Right? So what you need to know about this intel is they are very evidence-based. And by evidence-based, what I mean is they put together this plan of action, and then after they execute that plan of action, they look at it for its effectiveness. Were we effectiveness? Did we achieve our goal? Did it get done what we wanted it to get done? If those questions are yes, then they know they're on the right track. If the answer to those questions are no, then they know they've got to change things to be responsive to so that they can continue to be evidence-based. For years and years and years, we in law enforcement have done stuff that has never proven to work. It's only been in the last 10 or 15 years or so that we have stolen something from the nursing field. Nurses have been using evidence-based practices since the 30s. They've been teaching evidence-based practices since the 30s. It's only been the last several years that we in law enforcement have grabbed onto these evidence-based practices and said, yeah, we're gonna learn from that model of evidence-based. And so our intelligence-led policing is going to reevaluate that information and tell you what was our results. Was our results good? Was it bad? What did we do good? What could we have done better? And without that last piece, without step 6, steps 1 through 5 are irrelevant because they become outdated. Y'all get that? Without step 6, 1 through 5 is a waste of time. Because 1 through 5 are going to change as number 6 dictates, right? Now the steps may not change, but the processes within those steps may change, is what I'm getting at. Everybody with me? According to intelligence-led policing and this article, we have 4 levels of operations inside the United States. 4 levels of intelligence operations within the United States. Number 1 is the highest level. It is, for lack of a better term, ideally intelligence-led policing. Not only do they gather data, not only do they analyze data, they also disseminate a lot of data, and they evaluate their work. It is intelligence-led policing. It tends to be your bigger, larger federal government agencies, FBI, CIA, Secret Service. Level 2. A level 2 agency is an agency that produces tactical and strategic analysis. A level 2 agency may or may not gather a whole lot of data, but they use the data that has been gathered and analyze it. They do a lot of analyzing. Yep. Level 2 is a department that produces tactical and strategic analysis. National Crime Institute. They may not gather a whole lot of data, but they massage that data, they analyze that data and put it into useful form. Some, i.e. National Crime Institute would be an example of a level 2. They produce a lot, take a lot of that data and produce it, put it into something useful. UCR. There's another example of, would be another example of that. Level 3. Level 3s are where most police departments are in this country, regardless of their size. Level 3 is where most police departments are, in a level 3. Most police departments are in level 3 because they rely on intel gathered from other sources. They may not gather but very little intel. And they typically don't analyze much data. But they use the data and the analyzed information that come from sources around them, right? Which is where you'll find most police departments. Most police departments don't gather a whole lot of intel. Most police departments don't do a whole lot of analyzation. I say most, not all. There are some who are going to be in your level 2s and your level 1s. But most are going to fall in. We don't gather a whole lot of data. We don't do a whole lot of analyzation. But we're open to gathering data from these other agencies that gather it, and we will interpret it and look at it and see how it affects us, and we'll act on it. We'll use that data gathered by other agencies to our advantage. And that's where most police departments lie. And to be honest with you, the reason they lie there is because they don't have the financial resources to have the intelligence gathering. And why don't they have the resources? Why don't they have the intelligence gathering? Because intelligence gathering, as we talked about a few minutes ago, is what? It's the most labor-intensive part of this whole thing. It's very expensive. And so it all comes down to money. They don't have the money to put the people on the ground to gather the intelligence. And number 4. Number 4 are they're my favorite group. Number 4 are your silos. Y'all remember us talking about silos? Number 4 are your groups who don't collect data, they don't analyze any data, and they don't look at no data from any other sources. They're just their own little place, their own little world. They're a silo. They live all amongst themselves. And they are the saddest bunch.
You're saying those will be gone before too long, though, with technology increasing and space considering?
I don't know that they'll be gone because municipalities are going to have boots on the ground. Municipalities are going to have to continue to have police officers on the ground. What happens there is the politicians, the town councils. These are your really small departments and your really backwards sheriff's office. The town councils and the board of supervisors that finance them are going to start asking questions about why our crime rate's so high, why our crime rate never goes down, why do we keep arresting so many people, why do the neighboring counties, that's one of the questions that I can't believe Tazewell doesn't ask. Tazewell County never asks. You have Tazewell, Russell, Smith, and Witt. And of those 4 that surround Tazewell County's arrests is 3 times higher than the others. There's got to be there's something going on there. Don't tell me. There's something going on that somebody's not asking the right question.
I mean, what are you saying, that they're using technology and making more arrests because of that? Or?
I don't know if they're using technology and making more arrests because of it, or if they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. When you have one county who's making more arrests than everybody else, there's something going on. There's a reason your crime is higher than those around you. Are you so inept at what I'm thinking is the police are doing such a poor job that the criminal element around knows we can get by with it longer and do more if we come to Tazewell, so that they kind of migrate to Tazewell. You know what I mean? Whereas if they're thinking, if I'm in Russell County, I'll get caught in a hurry. Those guys down there are really on top of their game. I'm not going to Russell County. That's what I'm thinking. And so as a result, they're catching a whole lot more criminals per 100,000, but they're still not making a dent in what really is going on. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
That's kind of the way I look at that. And so what happens is somebody's gonna start asking some questions about why are crime rates so high? You know, why do we have so many people in jail? How is it that our numbers don't look like the counties around us numbers? And when they start asking those types of questions, then you start running into, why they're a silo, and you start exposing why they're a silo.
I mean, exposing that over a long period of time, shouldn't that be eventually gone, the academic silo, in 10 or 20 years?
You'd like to think so, but it boils down to money.
Oh, okay.
It boils down to money. To step out of to break out of a silo initially is gonna cost the municipalities some dollars.
Okay.
And a lot of times municipalities are not willing to pay that. You know, they don't wanna spend that money in that way. They have other earmarks for that. Questions? I'm gonna let y'all go just a couple minutes early. Any questions before I let you go? Questions, comments? Was the test hard? All right. Y'all did a great job today. Thank you for the information. Thank you for sharing with me. Thank you for being vocal. Thank you, Beckley. Y'all did a great job. We'll see you all on Tuesday.
Have a good one.
Anybody else? Okay. Yeah. What are we signing? I gotta. All right. I got to get the pen. You'll need that.
Are you covered on this one?
She didn't give me nothing to take a test with.
Will take us for a basket.
Sorry.
That's like $400 worth of stuff. Yeah, there's,
Alright.
you get, if you win, you get movie tickets, you get 2 oil changes for free, 10 car washes, 10 tanning sessions, cut chrome style, DSC blankets,
Bradford, again, I won't be here on
scarf.
Thursday.
Don't need to cut my own hair, so.
You're supposed to buy one, Kitty.
We can get somebody in here just to get the notes made up, because we won't have it.
I mean, it's $1 and you get like $400 worth of stuff.
All right, we'll see you. Be careful. I'm glad this snow's going away. That means you can't pop that arm out joint anymore.
You got 2 people that work like
Yeah, I forgot about that.
We open till middle of March.
Yeah, if it stays cold at night, you will easy, won't you? Wonder why they quit.
They just cut their losses.
Really?
Yeah.
I think these cold nights that you can make some snow and it would stay.
It would, but he said it's not worth it, cause come March, more people gonna come.
I can see I would come.
People start thinking spring and they don't wanna think about snow.
I like the snow tube. I can't do any of the other stuff, but I like to go up there and snow tube some, take the family, go snow tubing. But I don't like to go when it's 10 degrees. I wanna go when it's about 50.
I can get you in cheap on like a Thursday night or something. I work there.
Oh, do you really? That's why you all the time snowboarding and stuff, yeah. Well, I used to like to come up and snow tube and stuff, you know, and ride. But I'm telling you, it's, but the last time we went, it was supposed to be like 40 in the day and dropped down to about 32, 29 something at night. And when we got done, they had right outside, they got that thermometer. Yeah. Well, they got that thermometer thing going, and it was about 12 degrees. I told my wife, I said, we can't do this, I'm freezing to death. But I like the snow tube.
That's when you go fast though, when it's warm and then it freezes.
Yeah. Well, there was people flying, they was hitting that orange neck down there.
Yeah, the far left lanes, those fast.
Yeah. Did you really? Last time we went, my old girl went into the creek. We thought her and she said, Dad, what are we gonna do? And I said, baby, you just stay on your tube till I get down there. Kicked her down. She laid on the tube and I went down behind her. When I got down, I got up and I was both out of the way. Yeah. She loves it. We bought, Dollywood tickets this time because she told us all she wanted to do was ride roller coasters all summer. I said, we're going on vacation. All I want to do is ride roller coasters. So we got Dollywood tickets and we're going like about every other weekend through the summer. She said, go ride with me. I said, no. Why? I said, you don't puke on me, do you? Because all you get is one loop to do and I'm done. That's it. I'm routing. I apologize for all the information on the wedding circuit. I'm going to talk about classification. That used to be in my wheelhouse. I'm done playing with that. We'll go. Burger King's calling my name before 1 o'clock. How do you arrest people on Saturday night? That's right. All right, see ya.